Community radio stations were not spared in the attacks against property and looting. In Mamelodi and Alexandra, some stations were broken into and equipment stolen. The looting of community stations is contributing to the destabilizing of communities. So was the looting of radio stations a plan by the instigators or just a coincidence as looting spread in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal? Let's unpack this with William Bird, who's the director at Media Monitoring Africa. William, thank you so much for making time. So what we know so far is that 4 radio stations have been looted, vandalized. Is it a coincidence that they were vandalized during the violence and the looting?
I mean, it seems like just such an incredibly powerful and joyous coincidence for those who were inciting violence that not 1, not 2, but 3, but 4 community radio stations were targeted. You know, that suggests a pattern. We've also know that mobile network operator towers have been targeted. So there's been a clear effort to attack the communications network. There's been a clear effort to use social media to heighten tensions, to spread hate, to incite violence, to instigate violence. So I think that it would be an extraordinary thing to discover that those 4 stations were looted just because they happened to be there and were in the way at the time of whatever group of people decided to go and loot them. You know, so there are just too many factors that would strongly suggest that that was more part of a deliberate strategy to undermine people's ability to access reliable, credible information.
What role do such community radio stations play, William, in their respective communities? Because when you destroy a community radio station, you destroy the community itself. You take away a platform for them, not only to access credible information, but this is a platform where they air their views, where they debate, where they criticize.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I mean, community media are, because they're close, they're in the community, you know, they're staffed by people that live and work there, people who are on the boards are from there. You know, they really are part and parcel of that community. It's why they have the definition of being community media to begin with. So to that extent, when you then go and attack them, that's a very clear and overt, direct attack on the community itself. It's also then a direct attack on the community's ability to think, to debate, to how they see themselves, how they understand their role in that particular area, wherever they may be. So it's a very, it's an incredibly heinous offence to be going and looting a part of yourself. You know, so it's not just that you're going. You know, it's a lot easier for us to kind of understand the looting of like a massive mall. You know, a mall here as there is anywhere, owned by big shop owners. You think, etc. Not that that justifies it, but there's that distance between who those people are as opposed to the community media. When you're going after there, where these people, the DJs, the talk show hosts, are people that you know, they might be your neighbors. It's a very different kind of a thing. It's very much an attack that says, we are not going to allow for debate and discussion. We are going to just allow for heightened levels of anger, anxiety, fear, and whatever else to incite violence.
Yeah, because there can be quite important mediums for even local councillors to come in this instance, call on people to stop the violence, to stop being participants in the looting. Why do we often see the media being targeted every time there are efforts to destabilize the country? I think when you look at Eswatini even and what transpired there, it just gives you an idea.
Yeah, exactly. Things were getting very violent and out of hand in Eswatini recently, and what did the government do? They shut down the internet. I mean, that's the most extreme form of oppressive and rights violating kind of actions they could take in relation to freedom of expression, and that's what they did. And that's the way that anti-democratic forces work. They go in and they seek to control the media because they want to control the narrative. They don't want people out there sharing different ideas. They don't want people to pause and say, hold on a moment, folks, what's going on here? Who's behind this? Why are we doing this? Why would we attack our own community? Just because the moment you're able to pause and reflect on these things, you suddenly start to move away from violence, because ultimately that's what media does. It allows for you to think through things, to understand, to have opposing viewpoints there, that's how you advance, your society and your ability to engage and think through things, is by hearing, what different people in your community or different experts are saying, because that's how you learn, But of course, when you're in a moment where people are wanting you not to be rational, they're wanting you to operate on the basis of raw anger and raw emotion and raw need in many instances, because I think, many of us in the same position as the people in those communities would probably have done the same thing that many of those people did. I don't think that so it's not a critique of that action per se, but it is a critique of saying to go in deliberately and attack a community radio station is something that is a very offensive thing to the community. It's an attack on all of those people's sense of self, their sense of dignity. It's such an invasive thing to be doing.